Let me introduce her. This is my girlfriend, Emily, Tom said with a smile. The woman beside him greeted everyone. Nice to meet you all. Your girlfriend? I was in shock. Tom casually responded. Oh right, I haven't told you. I'm going to marry Emily, so I want a divorce. What? I was too stunned to speak. Tom continued. I realized my parents were right. Being with an older woman like you is getting tough. Emily's young. She's 23. New houses and women are always better, right? Emily nodded in agreement. And about the accident you mentioned, it's no big deal, right? You broke a bone and now you're slacking off at home. We'll take the house once we divorce. I was so shocked by his outrageous comments that I forgot to get angry. It was impossible to continue the conversation. Taking a deep breath, I presented a signed divorce document and said, Okay, here are the divorce papers. Oh, you're well prepared, Tom said, jubilant. Leaving the couple behind, I began preparing to leave the house immediately. As I was packing, Tom spoke up. You have nowhere to go, right? There's an apartment near the station within the range of $100. It's old and has cracks in the walls, though. Tom, that's so mean, Emily chimed in. The two of them laughed ignorantly. I didn't respond and slammed the front door. Let them laugh. I have places to go. Places they could never imagine. My name is Catherine White. I'm turning 40 this year. I married Tom when I was 35, 3 years ago. We don't have kids and live together in the house I bought when I was single. It's secondhand but refurbished and quite clean. Why did I buy a house before getting married? It goes back to my childhood. We were poor because my father was gone. To be precise, he disappeared before I could remember him. I lived with my mother, who loved me deeply, but life was tough with just the two of us. Still, having my mother was enough. But during my high school years, she passed away due to an illness. It was devastating, but I had no time to mourn. I had to survive on my own. After graduating from high school, I started working at a small advertising agency. I worked tirelessly in sales. In my 30s, I was so dedicated to work that I never imagined I'd marry, but I wanted a place to call my own, so I saved up and bought a cheap house. I had to take out a loan, but I paid it off early. Around that time, I met Tom. He was from a client company. Tom seemed unreliable to me since he was 5 years younger, but he admired my work ethic. We started seeing each other. It was surprising but also delightful. I had never had anyone openly express their feelings for me before. We started dating and quickly got married. At first, Tom's parents disapproved of our marriage. I was older, and they knew I had no family. But Tom defended me, saying, even if she has no parents, Catherine works hard. Don't say such things. I was genuinely happy. I thought we could make it work. But that changed. The shift in Tom's behavior began less than 6 months after we moved in together. One evening, after returning from work, he sat down at the dining table. Dinner was meat and potatoes, a salad, and eggplant soup. After eating for a while, Tom stopped. What's wrong? I have been meaning to say this. The soup, it's from this morning, right? I don't like leftovers. Can you make a fresh one for dinner? But it takes time. I also work, and I might not make it in time. Sorry, but that sounds like an excuse. My mother always made different soups for breakfast and dinner, and there should be at least 5 side dishes. Can you do that? I was taken aback by the sudden situation. I have felt this way for a while, but kept it to myself. While I'm not great at cooking, it's hard to do intricate dishes while working too. Your mother is a full-time housewife, right? I work and can't cook that much. That's why you shouldn't make excuses. It's expected of a housewife. You should at least do that much. I was frustrated by Tom's outdated views, but I held back my words to avoid worsening the mood, though I was discontent. I wanted to avoid arguments, so I started finishing work on time and rushing home to cook. However, Tom's actions and words became increasingly demanding. Did you use cheap meat for this? This side dish is the same as yesterday. Please space them out at least a week. With each of his complaints, the time I spent cooking became more overwhelming. Before I knew it, I was spending all day thinking about meals. Tom's nitpicking didn't stop at just food. He checked every corner of the house for dust and criticized my cleaning. If you have so many complaints, why don't you do it yourself? I finally snapped. What are you saying? Housework isn't my job. Don't shift the responsibility. Maybe you can't handle chores because you didn't have parents around. I was stunned by his words. He had never belittled me for not having parents before. Was this Tom's true nature? The man I knew before felt like an illusion. Regardless, I wished for the old Tom to return, but the situation only worsened. With Tom's endless demands, I was completely drained, and balancing work seemed impossible. On Tom's suggestion, I decided to quit my job. I had loved that job since graduating from high school, but it seemed there was no choice. Looking back, maybe I should have left him then, but I had always prioritized work over romance and didn't know what a normal family looked like. I thought perhaps meeting Tom's demands was a housewife's duty. Maybe all I had to do was bear it a bit to maintain a peaceful home. Now that I was a full-time housewife, I had much more time for housework. Tom's complaints decreased, and I was genuinely relieved. I thought the problem was solved, but my friends knew Haas. It's so spacious and beautiful. The furniture was designed by famous designers, and the appliances are all luxury items, they said. Oh really? I casually responded, handing Tom a glass of water. But compared to that, our second-hand house is a bit lacking. I wish we could at least replace this cheap furniture, Tom remarked. Cheap? The furniture and appliances were from my single days, but they were still in good condition. They weren't luxury items, but they weren't cheap either. Moreover, when Tom moved in, he had said, "Let's keep using these appliances and furniture." I reminded him of that, but he brushed it off. But honestly, after living with it, I feel new furniture would be better, he said without hesitation. Even if you say that, the current ones are still usable, I softly pointed out. Tom suddenly looked at me with a mocking expression. That's the frugal side of you. I wonder if you're just naturally stingy. What? Why would you say that? Anyway, I've quit my job, so we don't have that kind of money. You quit your job because you wanted to, didn't you? But you? Yeah, it's always my fault, he muttered dismissively and staggered off to the bedroom. How could he say such things? Anger started to boil within me, but then I thought maybe he's just drunk. He's just being brave because he's drunk. Don't mind. However, even when he was sober, Tom's attitude was getting worse. Our conversations became more hostile, and every time he spoke, it was to complain about me. What on earth happened to him? Then, without telling me, Tom went ahead and bought new furniture. On top of that, it seems he also got new golf equipment. He looked at the golf clubs with satisfaction, clearly pleased with himself. Tom has a regular job, but he doesn't earn much. He probably took out a loan now that I can't work. I was worried about repaying the loan. Anxiety grew in my heart. Then an unexpected event occurred. As usual, I was on my way to the supermarket to buy ingredients for dinner. While walking on the road, a loud horn blared from behind. Immediately after, I felt a huge impact, and then darkness consumed my consciousness. When I came to, I was staring at an unfamiliar ceiling. It seemed I was lying down. I felt pain everywhere and couldn't move. What happened to me? I wondered aloud. Oh, Miss White, have you awakened? A voice said. Where am I? You're in the hospital. You were brought in after a traffic accident. Traffic accident? I remembered leaving the house, but nothing after that. I moved my head slightly, taking in the impersonal bed, the attached IV drip, and the woman in a nurse's uniform. Was this really a hospital? Looking outside, it was already dark. I had left the house around 2 p.m., so a lot of time had passed. Later, a doctor came and briefly explained the situation. It seemed I was hit by a car whose driver was not paying attention while I was on my way to the supermarket. I didn't have life-threatening injuries, but I had several fractures and needed to be hospitalized for a while. I never imagined being in a traffic accident. After receiving an explanation about the hospitalization, the nurse spoke up. We've contacted your husband. From her hesitant expression, I had a bad premonition. I immediately called Tom. Hello, Tom. Yeah, Catherine. I got a call from the hospital. You had an accident. You're so clumsy. Come home quickly and make dinner. What? I'm going to be hospitalized from now on. I couldn't understand what he was saying, and when I retorted, Tom shouted back, Then what about the housework? What are you saying? Is the housework more important than me? Unbelievable. He was more concerned about the housework than his wife's condition. I felt myself becoming increasingly angry, and it soon turned into a quarrel. Arguing any further would be pointless, so I hung up the phone, still frustrated. Lately, Tom had been more harsh in his words, but I never realized he could be this cold. That day, I was filled with anger and physical pain, making it hard to sleep. But as the days went by, my strength gradually returned, and I started rehabilitation. Initially, moving was tough, but it became surprisingly enjoyable as I got used to it. Lying in bed, I often found myself lost in thought, so rehab was a welcome distraction. However, since that incident, I hadn't heard from Tom. I thought talking to him would just anger me, so I ignored him. Around that time, I occasionally passed an elderly man in the hallway. He was well dressed, so he wasn't a patient. I assumed he was visiting someone and didn't give it much thought, but he seemed to be looking my way. "Are you Catherine White?" "Yes, I am. What can I do for you?" I answered cautiously. At that time, I had no idea that this man would change my fate. Eventually, after about a month in the hospital, I was discharged. I hadn't fully recovered, but I was told all patient care would surface. I was finally going home after a month away. My home felt oddly nostalgic, but that feeling was short-lived. The moment I opened the door, I felt something was off. There were unfamiliar shoes, heels with flashy pink ribbons. Could it be? Rushing into the living room, I braced myself for what I might find. I noticed the entire house had changed. Not just the furniture, but even the electronics had been replaced with brand new, high-end models. The curtains were different too, making it feel like someone else's house. "Ah, Catherine, you've been discharged." Tom emerged from the back, sitting casually. Next to him was a young woman. The woman with brown hair and a revealing outfit spoke lazily, "Welcome back." Who are you?" I was stunned. Tom smiled. "Oh, let me introduce you. This is my girlfriend, Emily." "Nice to meet you," she added. "Your girlfriend?" "Yeah, I guess I never mentioned it. I am planning to marry Emily, so I want a divorce." "What?" I was at a loss for words. I've come to realize that what my parents said was right. Without proper parents, you can't manage household chores or finances properly. I thought you being older would be reliable, but living with an aunt has become tough. Emily's young, just 23. New homes and women are always better, right? Right. Emily tilted her head in agreement. And that accident of yours wasn't a big deal, right? Breaking a bone and then slacking on housework deserves a divorce. We'll be taking the house, by the way. Such outrageous statements left me too stunned to even get angry. Don't get me wrong, we're planning to buy a new house eventually, but this place is just a temporary one until then. When they say something as unreasonable as this, I'll lose all desire to even converse with them. The old Tom is gone. I've come to think of him as a monster, not a human with whom I can communicate. I shouldn't fight on the same level with them. I took a deep breath and presented a document. "Okay, here are the divorce papers." "Oh, you're well prepared." I had already signed the divorce papers in advance, considering the recent strange atmosphere. I thought this choice might come up eventually, so I quickly started packing my things. I needed to prepare to leave the house. As I was busy, Tom spoke to me. "You don't have anywhere to go, right? There's an apartment near the station that rents for $100. It's run down and has cracks in the walls, though." "Tom, that's so mean," Emily chimed in. Ignoring their mocking laughter, I slammed the front door with force. I took a moment to look back at the house, my castle that I worked hard to buy. Today is the last day I'll see it, but I had no regrets. I had a place to go. A week later, while relaxing in my new place, the doorbell rang loudly. Checking the monitor, I saw it was Tom and Emily. Ignoring them, I heard them shouting my name. Their frenzied state made me want to laugh. After observing for a while, I spoke over the intercom. "What do you want? Why are you living in such a mansion?" Tom asked. The mansion he referred to was where I currently lived, a 3-story building made of reinforced concrete on a massive plot, complete with a swimming pool. "You came all the way here just to say that?" "No, I have a proposal." "Open up. I want to talk face to face." "It's probably just nonsense." "No, it's important," Tom insisted. Annoyed with Tom's persistence, I thought this would be the last time and opened the door. I led them to the living room. I had been in touch with Tom about the change of house ownership, but I never told him where I lived. When I asked how he found out, it seemed he coincidentally saw me in town and followed me. He was expecting to see me entering the shabby apartment, but was shocked to see me entering this mansion. Tom, along with Emily, had concocted a bold plan. "Tell me, are you living in this mansion because of some shady job?" "What? Why?" I was taken aback by Tom's absurd claim. "I saw you. You were with an old man entering this house." "I get it. You don't want to admit it. You're poor, so you had to find that kind of work, right? But if you have such a wealthy client, I want you to introduce him to Emily. I work in a cabaret club, so I'm good at charming older men. I'm sure I can earn more than you, Catherine. What are you both talking about? The man you saw me with is probably my father. This house is also my father's house. What? That's a lie. You don't have parents, Tom insisted loudly, just as the door to the reception room opened. Seeing the middle-aged man who emerged, I called out, "Dad." "My father," I explained quickly. Surprised, my father sat next to me and greeted Tom. "Ah, you must be Tom. My daughter spoke of you before. Nice to meet you. I'm Catherine's father, Robert Johnson." "Wait, what's going on?" Tom looked back and forth between me and my father, his eyes wide with surprise. "It's understandable. I only recently reunited with my father while I was in the hospital," I began, explaining the situation. Yes, the middle-aged man who spoke to me that day was my father. My father was supposed to have disappeared. I had been told so by my mother. I thought there might have been a mistake, but after speaking with this man, I realized he was my real father. To start a business, my father went to America. After a while, once his business was on track, he planned to bring us over, but he was robbed there, losing everything. He lost all his investment capital, and even his means of communication was cut off. Stranded, he fortunately met a man who offered him a job at his company. Starting with menial tasks, he gradually got promoted and eventually became the right-hand man to the company's CEO. With the help of this man, he later started his own business. The business was successful, and my father achieved social success. But he was always concerned about my mother and me. He felt guilty for leaving us for so long and found it hard to return. Then his company decided to start a new venture in Japan. After much thought, he decided to come back. He built a house here and started looking for me and my mother. He then discovered that my mother had passed away and was deeply regretful. If only he had come back sooner. Wishing to see me as soon as possible, he visited me in the hospital. Learning the truth, I ended up living in this mansion owned by my father. I briefly explained all this. By the way, my father had also looked into Tom's affair. After occasional golfing outings, Tom would go to a hostess club where he met Emily. "So, this is my family home. Understand, I never heard about you having a rich father all of a sudden," Tom murmured in a big voice. "So, if you have so much money, will you come to the club where I work?" Emily quickly tried to hand her business card to my father. True to the type of woman Tom would choose, she was incredibly bold. But my father stopped her immediately. "I'm sorry, but I make it a point not to visit cheap imitation bars." "What?" Emily was speechless. My father frequented some establishments for work, but only the finest, high-end places. He would never go to a cheap club like where Emily works. Besides, I don't have money. Catherine inherited everything already. To the puzzled expressions of Tom and Emily, my father casually replied, "Around $800 million. It's the least I can do to make up for leaving her alone all this time." The two of them were dumbfounded, their mouths agape. "I've heard about you from Catherine, especially your insults," my father continued. "She worked hard, scrimping and saving from her meager salary to buy that house. She also did her best with household chores. Having no mother, she probably didn't get a chance to learn from anyone, yet you disparaged her and trampled on her feelings. I can't forgive you, especially when you cheated on her while you were married. If it comes to that, I can sue you." "But Tom attempted to interject. "Catherine's struggles were partly my fault too," my father continued, cutting him off. "You mocked me for being poor and for not having parents. I'm fed up with someone like you who lacks compassion. Never come back to this house again. Goodbye. Is there anything else you need? If you're done, can you leave?" I added firmly. "Ha! Help!" Tom and Emily screamed and ran away. Watching them go, my dad and I shared a laugh. It had been a while since I'd laughed so much. I knew I probably wouldn't see those two again. I could finally live in peace. Later, I found out about their subsequent misfortune. A typhoon hit the region where Tom and Emily lived, bringing heavy rain that flooded houses near overflowing rivers. Fortunately, my area wasn't affected, but their house suffered severe damage. Tom and Emily fled, but their expensive furniture, brand new golf equipment, and Emily's luxury items were all waterlogged. The house's pillars had rotted from being soaked for so long. With no place to stay, the two seemed to live in shelters for a while. Tom's family home was far away, and Emily's family situation was worse. Her parents were gambling addicts living in a tiny apartment. Emily, who worked at a nightclub, spent all her money. Tom was also in debt from buying expensive things. Tom, who relied on women for money, was now in trouble. The two, having no other options, had to move into a cheap apartment near the station that he had once told me about. It was ironic that Tom, who once mocked others, ended up living there. What you do to others will come back to you, I reflected. Unless they truly repent, they won't find peace. Meanwhile, I was thinking of job hunting since leaving my previous company. When I talked to my father about this, he offered me a position at his company. The job is in sales like before, and it's fulfilling. I'm still learning, but I work hard every day to be valuable. At my father's mansion, we often host home parties for business associates. My sales experience helps, and I can talk freely with anyone. I plan to work abroad in the future, so I'm also studying English. My father often tells me, "You look livelier now compared to when we reunited." It feels like a lie that I used to be so irritated every day when I was with Tom. Life is unpredictable, I concluded. Even if times are tough, they won't last forever. If you keep looking forward, someone will always be watching over you. I believe that, and I want to keep living brightly.